Hello and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And thank you for joining me today. So here today, I'm going to talk about the Mercury's transit in the sign of Gemini, which starts on June the 3rd. It will last until June the 17th. So only 2 weeks of this transit. Mercury will be moving at its fastest pace, a really speedy movement of Mercury, because on the 14th of June, Mercury will go through a process of a rebirth. We've got a Cazimi conjunction between the Sun and Mercury. This is also a superior conjunction. It's a really significant event here in the cycle of Mercury and the Sun, because at this point, Mercury will be invisible in the night sky. But following this conjunction, Mercury will begin to regain its strength and visibility as we approach the end of June. But at the point of the superior conjunction, it's invisible. But here we've got a Cazimi, of course, in the heart of the Sun. So a really interesting transit, but at the same time, we also have Mercury in the sign where Jupiter is present. Mercury will be in the sign that is compatible to where Pluto is present as well. So lots of depth, especially in the initial days of this transit. All right, so let's see what this transit means for us collectively and on a personal level. So here, stay with me and let's begin. Gemini is the third sign of the zodiac, originating from the constellation of Gemini, of course. And it's an earth sign ruled by Mercury. And since Gemini is associated with the element of air, it generally reflects the intellectual and communicative nature of this sign. When Mercury is in Gemini, there is often heightened focus on communication, information exchange, and also intellectual, mentally stimulating pursuits. Now, there's also a very strong desire for versatility. However, it's essential to be mindful of potential information overload during this time, or perhaps superficial interactions as well, as generally the energy of Mercury in Gemini can sometimes lead to scattered focus and a lack of depth in communication. I know I said there is this beautiful trine to Pluto in the initial phase, but overall, generally speaking, Mercury in Gemini may sometimes lack that depth. So it's something to just keep in mind. Now, at the same time, while Mercury stays in Gemini, it will conjoin with the Sun. There's a superior conjunction happening on June the 14th at 24 degrees of Gemini, also called a Cazimi conjunction as well, when the Mercury will be in the heart of the sign. And when Mercury aligns with the Sun on the opposite side of the Earth, during this time, Mercury is at its fastest or furthest point from Earth, and it's not visible in the night sky. And at the superior conjunction, Mercury moves really rapidly as it aligns with the Sun. So here, this event marks a really significant point in Mercury's orbit. The term Cazimi refers to a specific astrological condition where a planet is exceptionally close to the Sun. And in the case of Mercury, the Mercury and the Sun Cazimi at the superior conjunction at 24 degrees of Gemini. This is when Mercury is positioned directly between the Earth and the Sun. And this close proximity to the Sun can have a really strong significance. And in traditional astrology, it is believed that planets in Cazimi are strengthened and their influences are intensified. And this alignment, this Cazimi conjunction, is often seen as a potent time for clarity, for insight, and heightened mental clarity. Right, so let's see what this transit means for each rising sign. I follow Western astrology, tropical zodiac, so let's begin. So here, Aries, hello Aries, for you, this is happening in your third house. And when Mercury moves through the third house in your chart, this is when you may be more interested in learning new things, gathering information, sharing your information with others. You might be also more inclined to take short trips, and whether this is for business or pleasure. And there you might have this stronger need to connect with others, especially people in your local community. Now, at the same time, this transit can also bring a tendency towards restlessness or scattered thinking. And it's really important during this time that you're mindful of how you're using your time and energy to make sure that you are focusing on the things that truly matter or that matter most to you. And overall, with Mercury transiting your third house, this is a time for intellectual curiosity, communication, and here again, connecting with others. It's a really good time to seek out new learning activities, opportunities, to connect with people in your local surroundings, to share knowledge, ideas with others. Perhaps this is when you'll be setting up a new podcast or a blog, or generally you're connecting with people as well. Now, Taurus, for you, this is happening in your second house. Mercury will be transiting the second house in your chart. And during this time, you might be more interested in learning about money, effective money management, budgeting, financial planning. You might be also more inclined to communicate with others about the economy, financial matters. This is a good time for negotiating your salary, for discussing anything to do with any investments, to seek out perhaps new opportunities for making more money or for creating an additional income revenue, for example. At the same time, this transit can also bring a tendency towards impulsive spending or maybe even overthinking. For this reason, it's important to be mindful of how you're managing your money during this time. And in order to make sure that you are making choices that truly align with your vision, with your long-term financial goals and plans as well. So overall, transiting Mercury in the second house. This is a time to concentrate on your financial matters. It's an opportunity for improving your financial situation. It's a good time to generally for researching information about finances, the economy. This is also a great time to seek out new information and perhaps learning also about any opportunities related to personal finance. Now, here it's also a good time for communicating with others about financial matters that are truly, truly important to you. Now, Gemini. So, Gemini is for you, this transit is happening in your first house. And when Mercury moves through the first house in your sign as well, this is a time when you may feel more prone to speak your mind, to share your thoughts with those around you. And also your ability to generally articulate your ideas, your opinions, your thoughts might be much stronger as well. During this time, you might find that others are more receptive to what you have to say. And generally, this can be a good time for networking, for making new connections, for sharing your ideas with others as well. Now, at the same time, this transit can also bring a tendency towards impulsiveness and speaking without thinking things through. So it's essential to generally be aware of these tendencies, to be mindful of how your words may be received by others, and to make sure that you are communicating clearly, effectively as well. So overall, this is also a good time to focus on personal development, self-improvement, self-discovery, through astrology, for example. A great time for studying, learning about yourself as well. Okay, so now Cancers. Cancers, for you, this is happening in your 12th house. And when Mercury moves through the 12th house in the astrological chart, it can bring a strong focus on communication, intuition, spirituality, self-growth, spiritual growth. This is a time when you may be more interested in exploring your inner world, connecting with your intuition, and generally with your spiritual beliefs. You might be also more inclined to communicate about sensitive or emotional topics. And this is a great time also for learning about anything related to metaphysical or spiritual topics. Now, at the same time here, this transit can also bring a tendency towards becoming overly focused on the unconscious mind, or perhaps becoming lost in daydreams and fantasy. You might be a lot in your head during this time. So Generally, it's important to be mindful of your own thoughts, of your own emotions during this time. Make sure you're balancing your desire for introspection and spiritual growth, for example, with your need for practical action in the real world. So overall, this transit here, transiting Mercury in the 12th house, is a fantastic time for exploring your inner world, and your intuition is heightened during this time. It's a great time for journaling, for reading, for meditating. Anything to do with self-discovery, spiritual growth is amazing. You might really enjoy journaling, releasing your inner thoughts and putting it in writing, for example. Now, Leos, this transit is happening in your 11th house. And when Mercury travels through the 11th house, it can bring a strong focus on communication and social interactions, connections, on community involvement, for example. Generally, this is a time when you may be more interested in connecting with friends, with colleagues, generally with like-minded people. Perhaps there could be an opportunity for working with others towards a common goal or perhaps a common cause. You might be also more interested in topics connected to social issues, or perhaps this is when you'll be learning about subjects related to anything to do with activism, humanitarian matters. Now, at the same time, with Mercury transiting the 11th house, there's often a tendency towards becoming overly focused on group dynamics, and perhaps be mindful of not losing sight of your own individual needs and priorities during this time. So it's overall important to be mindful of your own values, of your own goals during this time, and make sure that you are pursuing causes and social connections that align with your own sense of purpose and fulfillment. So overall, Mercury transiting your 11th house, an amazing time for connecting with like-minded people, for building social connections, for working with others towards a common cause, a common goal. A great time for also for getting involved in group activities, for joining new groups, and overall, here with Mercury, you might be also reevaluating your goals and dreams for the future as well. All right, so Virgos, for you, this transit is happening in your 10th house. So here, your career, public reputation. Generally, this transit brings a focus on communication, career, public image, your status. So here during this time, you might be more interested than usual in advancing your career goals, objectives, and communicating with your bosses, superiors about your career opportunities, potentials. And during this time, you can also improve or enhance your public image, reputation. You might be also more prone, more interested maybe in leadership roles. You might be also more confident, more assertive in the professional world, professional environment during this time. Now, at the same time, with Mercury transiting your 10th house, here Mercury brings also possible tendency towards becoming overly focused on achievement, on external validation. So it's important to be mindful of your own values, of your own priorities during this time. Make sure that you're following your goals, objectives that truly align with your sense of purpose, with your sense of fulfillment. So overall, with Mercury here for 2 weeks in Gemini between the 3rd and the 17th of June, you can move forward with your career goals. You can also perhaps speak your mind and discuss with your superiors anything that has been on your mind, anything that perhaps could help you to move up in your career ladder as well, anything that could help you to stand out, for instance. Now, Libras, this transit is happening in your 9th house, foreign travel, foreign people, paperwork. I think many Libras will be dealing with anything to do with documents and perhaps passport visa applications as well. But overall, this transit brings a strong focus on communication, travel, higher learning, higher education. It's a time when you may be more interested than usual in exploring new ideas and new perspectives, for example. A great time for learning as well, for expanding your knowledge. For example, you might be more inclined to travel, to engage in activities of a mentally stimulating nature. Anything that will help you to expand your wisdom's horizons and gain new experience will appeal during this time. Now, at the same time, with Mercury transiting your ninth house, there's a tendency towards restlessness or perhaps to becoming overly focused on the future. So it's really important to be here aware of these tendencies and then stay in the present moment. Make sure that you're grounding yourself in the here and now if you too much in your head or too much in the future. So overall, Mercury in the ninth house is great for exploring new ideas, new concepts, for learning, for studying, learning new languages, perhaps. If this has been on your mind, go for it. Traveling, anything that will generally fulfill your overly stimulated mind, that will help you to experience something new, different cultures, explore new beliefs, new ways of life, new ways of living will appeal during this time. Now, Scorpios, for you, this transit will be in your eighth house. So here, the eighth house traditionally connected to that Scorpio energy related to depth and transformation. So a strong focus on transformation, of course, communication, shared resources, intimacy. This is a time when you may be more interested in exploring deep and complex topics such as psychology, spirituality, as well, healing. And you might be more interested as well, more inclined to communicate about sensitive, taboo topics such as death or intimacy, power dynamics, for example. Now, at the same time with Mercury transiting your eighth house, this transit can also bring a tendency towards obsessiveness or becoming overly focused on the darker aspects of life. So it's really, really essential to be aware or mindful of your thoughts, of your emotions during this time. Make sure that you are balancing your desire for exploration and transformation with your need for stability, for security as well. So overall, Mercury transiting your eighth house for 2 weeks. So a great time for healing, for exploring the deeper aspects of life, topics, more complex topics, for communicating about anything that perhaps bothers you, but you don't often have the inner courage to discuss the topics of a deeper nature, for example. But a great time for researching, for studying as well. You might be dealing with your mortgage application. You might be dealing with anything to do with finances, investments as well. Sagittarius. So here, this transit is happening in your seventh house. When transiting Mercury moves through the seventh house, this is when you might be more interested in connecting with others. And this is about building strong partnerships, both personal and professional. So you might be more inclined to communicate effectively, diplomatically with others. And this is also about seeking out new opportunities for collaboration, for cooperation with others. Now, at the same time here, Mercury transiting your eighth house, Mercury can also make you indecisive at times, or perhaps there's a tendency to become overly influenced by the opinions of others. So it's really essential to be mindful of your own thoughts, of your own feelings during this time. Make sure that you are making choices that align with your values, with your personal values, with your objectives, with your goals. So overall here with Mercury transiting your seventh house, a great time for building strong relationships, partnerships, here both professionally speaking and in your personal life. A great time for communicating and for finding peace in your relationships. A great time for connecting with others, a great time for these one-to-one connections, for debates, for negotiations, for signing contracts as well. Now, Capricorns, this transit is happening in your sixth house. And when Mercury moves through the sixth house, this is when you might be more interested in improving your work routine, your daily life. You might be more interested in taking care of your physical health. Perhaps you'll be communicating more effectively, more confidently with your co-workers, employees. You might be more inclined also to seek out new learning opportunities related to your work, to health, well-being, and you might become more detail-oriented, more organized. You might pay more attention to generally perhaps restructuring your daily routine, becoming more efficient in your daily life, and more organized as well. However, at the same time, this transit can also bring a tendency towards overthinking, overanalyzing, or perhaps becoming overly critical of oneself or others. So here it's important to be aware of these tendencies, of your own thoughts, of your actions during this time. Make sure that you are approaching your work goals, your health goals in a constructive, in a positive way. And overall, with Mercury transiting your sixth house, you can improve your daily routine. You can improve your health as well, what you eat. The topic of well-being as well could be on your mind. And overall, this is a good time for also having health checkups, medical appointments as well. Right, so now Aquarius, this is happening in your fifth house. And when Mercury travels through the fifth house, this is a time when you might become more interested in following your passions, following your interests, your hobbies. And here you might have this greater ability to express yourself through art, music, creativity. You might be more inclined to communicate with others in a more playful, more light-hearted way. And this is a great time for socializing, for having fun, for pleasure. There is a lot of mentally stimulating energy. So you might enjoy engaging in activities of a mentally stimulating nature, especially when spending time with others. Now, at the same time here, this transit can also bring a tendency towards impulsiveness or overindulgence in pleasure-seeking activities, for example. So it's really essential to be aware of these tendencies, to be aware of your actions, of your choices during this time. Make sure that you are balancing your desire for fun, for pleasure, enjoyment, with your responsibilities, with your duties, obligations. So overall, Mercury transiting your fifth house. This is also when perhaps you'll be restructuring your parenting style. This is a great time for self-expression, for engaging in mentally stimulating projects, activities, hobbies. And you might really enjoy connecting with others, so people who share your interests, your passions, for example. Now, Pisces, for you, this transit is happening in your fourth house. And when Mercury travels through the fourth house, this is overall a time when you might be more interested in connecting with your family members and your loved ones. And this is also a time when you might want to create a more comfortable, nurturing environment. You might be more inclined to communicate about your emotions with others, especially here, people in your everyday surroundings. You might be reflecting on your past, your childhood memories during this time as well. Perhaps you'll be creating a photo album or a family tree. Now, at the same time, this transit can also bring a tendency towards moodiness or perhaps overthinking, especially when it comes to your emotions. And it's really essential to be aware of your emotional state during this time and make sure that you are taking care of your mental health, of your emotional well-being as well. So here, overall here with Mercury transiting your fourth house, a fantastic time for connecting with your family members, with your loved ones, for creating more comfort at your home. Perhaps you'll be getting some board games or puzzles, jigsaws for your home. And this is a good time for also reevaluating your past. It's a great time for creating a sense of emotional security and stability in your personal life overall. All right, so here we go. Thank you very much. And until the next time, bye for now.